Greetings and welcome to TOEFL Excellence. This is the teacher, and today I'm going to show you a little bit about the course, How to Answer Every Question and Fulfill Every Task on the TOEFL iBT exam. This is our primary or main course about the TOEFL. We do have other courses available, but this is the one that most people are going to be taking. Now, before you enroll in the course, when you come to the page which is the description, you'll see that it looks a little bit different than when you are already enrolled. So first of all, before you enroll in the class, you have the current status showing that you're not enrolled in the course. You have the price, and then you have a button that says Take this course. And it gives a description of the course. You can see this by going to the website. It shows you an overview of all of the different lessons and topics. If you click on these, it shows you everything that's in each of the different lessons. So each lesson has a number of different topics, but then they also have quizzes as well. We're going to go over that more thoroughly, but I just want to give you an idea of what it looks like on the home page. You'll still see all of this when you log in as a student, but you'll notice that you don't have as big of a description because, of course, you don't need it. Now, before you enroll in the course, you can scroll down and you'll notice that with some of these first lessons, it says sample lesson. So whenever it says sample lesson, and there are 4 different lessons, these are going to give you a good idea of what the course looks like, so you have an idea of the experience that you'll have when you're in the course. And also with the introduction, this gives you information about the exam itself. So if you're new to the exam, you can actually make use of these sample lessons to learn a little bit about what the exam is. Like I said, you can sample those even before you buy. Now, let's see what it looks like after you pay for the course. So once you pay for the course, you'll have access to it automatically, and you'll see that in your profile. And so what's in it? Well, we have our welcome page. So of course, once you are a member of the course, we have your welcome. You'll hear me give an explanation of what to expect in the course, and then moving on to the next lesson. Anytime you need to move on, you click the next button, and then you'll move on to the next page. This page gives you an idea of what is expected. If you don't really know very much about the TOEFL exam, then I suggest one of our other courses, which is a downloadable course called How Do I Do the TOEFL? So in the introduction, this first part gives you a brief idea of basically the character of the TOEFL. And then you have your different topics plus a little quiz at the end. Now, of course, this isn't a graded quiz or anything, but it's just a quiz to make sure that you understood what was in these different lessons. Let's take a look at those. So on this first one, you'll see that I like to use a lot of GIFs in my lessons because I think it makes it a little bit more fun and expresses the idea of what's going on rather than just having to read lots of words that you would have in a textbook. So it makes the class a little bit more fun. There are also links to helpful material. Clicking on the next topic again, you'll see we have a little bit more description about the different sections. Moving forward, we also talk about what makes the TOEFL exam awesome. In other words, why it's so different than all the other different exams, which is why I actually made a course. And then briefly talking about the vocabulary, because this is something that a lot of other people that make videos about the exam talk about with the TOEFL vocabulary. My views on the TOEFL vocabulary is very different than a lot of other people's views. I do what I call reverse engineering. So instead of making you memorize huge lists about vocabulary, which you will probably not even use in the exam, I have a much different approach that I think will be much more beneficial for you, and it will also save you a lot of time, and you won't end up studying a lot of useless information. So that's why I put the information about the vocabulary. I want to give you an idea of what a quiz looks like in the exam. So here we have the intro page to the quiz. All of the quizzes are going to have something like this. Some of them might have a little bit more of an explanation, but you have the button to start the quiz. I could have had the quiz start automatically, but one of the features in part of the TOEFL exam is that you actually have to press a button for the quiz to begin. So I want you to get used to the idea that you have to actually do something to make things happen here. So you press the start quiz button, and then you have your questions. I'm just going to pick random ones here. All right, so then when you get a true answer, it is in green, or the correct answer is in green. You see here, I picked the wrong answer. And there's an explanation of why the answer is wrong. Going to the next one, let's try that. Okay, so I got this one correct, and it says, well, that's right. And it gives you some extra information, and it's very encouraging. A lot of teachers that make videos about the exam, and even teachers that I've heard in class, often like to say, now this is really difficult, this is tricky. I completely disagree with that philosophy of telling people that something's going to be difficult. Because if you are at the point in your life that you're going to be taking the TOEFL exam, then you have already accomplished so many other things which were far more difficult than doing the TOEFL exam that there's really nothing difficult about it. It might be complex, you have a lot of things that you might need to learn, but they're not difficult to learn. You just have to learn them. So that's why I do a lot of encouragement throughout the whole exam, because, there's a lot of work that you need to do. That part's true, but none of it is difficult. You can do it. Anyone that has an intermediate level or above can do it. And if you're going to be going to university, then you basically have to be able to do it. If you don't pass the TOEFL exam, you're not going to be able to function in university. And that's what this whole exam and the training is all about. So getting back to the quiz, we have some more questions here. We're just going to speed forward through all of this. As you can see, whenever you get one wrong, they have, or I've put some extra information here. And here there's a link to a blog post that explains why this information is false. Going on to the next one. We're going to speed through here. So now we're at the last question of the quiz. We'll just check one here. We get it right. And then you have a finish quiz button. You press that, and it calculates your score. It tells you what your score is. Now here, I only got 40%. So therefore, it will make sure that the quiz is not listed as complete, because I want to know that you actually comprehend the material. So you have to get a certain score on most of the quizzes before it will be marked as complete. So let's just pretend that I got the correct score, and we'll move forward with this. So the second part of the introduction, you'll see once you have the drop down here, the second part of the introduction talks a little bit more about the actual taking of the exam, talking about taking notes, using the headphones and the microphone, a little bit about the scoring, and then it talks a little bit about the structure of the exam. I'm not going to show you every one of these pages, because once you're in the course, you'll see it for yourself. But just to give you an idea, on the page where it talks about the structure, it's a little bit more detailed. First of all, I also mention the old version of the TOEFL. Now, the reason, even though this happened in August of 2019, the reason I still have this information here is because a lot of people might be using textbooks or other materials that they found on the internet, and almost all of the material that's available so far is outdated. So I put this information here so you can see that it's outdated. This is we talk about the reading section, the listening section. Those are the sections that had some changes. Well, they basically all had some changes. The speaking section, what it was like before and after. The writing section, they didn't have any changes to the writing section. So that's why I put no change there. So that's a brief rundown of the format of the exam. And then it talks a little bit more about the structure in each of the different sections. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but I want to give you an idea. Now, the reading section and the listening section, the speaking section, and the writing section all have an introduction of their own to give you a little bit more detailed information once you get to each of those different sections. So here in the reading introduction, you see I have some more detailed information that will be good for you. It talks about the structure, the time period, how many different reading passages, and the different questions. And it gives some information about that, like the word length for the reading passages, the different question types. And then there are some more information about the skills and strategies that will be needed and techniques that you'll need to use to do the reading section. Talks about which skills are actually being tested for. And this is true with all of the different sections. I had talked about skills and strategies, the skills tested. Here we talk about the style of the reading passages. In other words, what you can expect from the reading passages. Basically, they're the same type of reading passages that you would expect to see in a textbook, but I briefly describe what you can expect here because there are different styles of reading passages, even though they're all academic. And then we have the different types of questions and tasks, and that's when it goes directly into every single question type on the reading section. We have the factual information in detail, vocabulary, negative information in detail, all the different styles of question types, and then they thoroughly describe each one. You get some examples of each one. There are different videos, video summaries talking about it. We have topics on how to identify them, strategies for answering, and then there's a strategy video. And that is true with every single question type on the reading section. And then once you finish with all of the different reading section questions and tasks, there is an overall experience, basically a lesson of what you can expect to experience on the actual exam day when you're in the testing center taking the exam. And then there's a summary of the entire section. We have some interludes in the course, basically to help transfer from one section to the next. The listening section also has another introduction, basically the same style as in the other one. The skills tested, the types of listening passages, the organizational structure, things like that. And then just like with the reading section, we have every single question and task type. Now this is a little bit different. You still have the different examples in the video summaries, but this one has additional information about, and then we have the strategies. We don't have the how to identify, because with the listening section, you don't need to know how to identify which question type it is. That's very obvious, but there is additional information that will be helpful for you. So that's why that's a little bit different than the reading section. Going down to the speaking section, once again, an introduction, same type of information. And then with the different speaking tasks, they're all tasks, not questions. Everybody likes to call them speaking question 1, speaking question 2. They're not questions, they're tasks. There might be questions in the task, but they're actually tasks. So with the speaking section, you have different examples. Once again, you have the summary videos. There is additional information about this. There is strategies, and then I give you example responses. Now, with all of the speaking tasks, I give you example responses of a typical response that would be considered a very good response. That way, when you're practicing, you can formulate your response to be in the same structure as the responses that I give, and then you'll know that you're going to get a good score no matter what. And then once again, we have an overall experience for the speaking section on the exam day. And then the writing section, which is the shortest section of the entire exam. There's only 2 tasks in this one, but once again, you have an introduction. You have the examples of each one. We have the different video summaries, additional information about it, and then we have the strategy. We have example notes, which is different than the other sections. So I show you the type of information that you should look for in the reading passages of this particular task and how to take notes for it. And then I give the response, but I also show the example notes along with the response. That way you can see how I use the notes to formulate the response. More GIFs to make it more fun. Now, in the writing section, when you're doing the practice, you're actually going to write your response directly onto the website here. So you listen to the audio file, and if there's a reading passage, you read the reading passage, you listen to the audio file, you take notes on your own. You don't take notes directly in the course here. You use paper like you would in the exam, but then you type your response here and you send it to me, and then I will grade it. And I will write back to you with my notes about that. So that's how it's done in the writing section. Now in the speaking section, and we're going in reverse now, for all of these different speaking tasks, we'll pick task number 3. We have the example response. So you can hear the example response with the information that's given, because some of the speaking tasks have reading passages and audio files that you have to listen to. So it gives examples there, the example notes of how do you take notes on that section, and then I give you an example response. And then when you do the practice, this is very different. And this is one of the things that a lot of the other courses available completely skip. They give you a lot of information about the exam, but then they don't give you the opportunity to actually practice your speaking section. Here, you can do that. You just click on the Start the Quiz, you have the reading passage, the listening file, and then when you're ready to give your response, you click there, and you use Skype to send me a voicemail. Basically, you call the number, and then you leave a voicemail. Once you hear the beep to leave the voicemail, you give your response just like you would in the normal lecture, and then I'll get the message that I have a new message. I will listen to your response. I will record my own notes about it. So instead of reading my notes like in the writing section, I will actually send you a recording talking about what was good about your response, what was bad about it, and how you can improve. So you're actually going to hear my voice talking about it. And then once you're done sending that, you just click on I have sent my recording and finish the quiz. Now I showed you a quiz in the reading section. That's more typical, where you just choose the answer and then click the next button and finish the quiz. It's very much the same in the listening section. The listening section and reading section are very similar, and the writing and speaking section, as far as the content, is similar, but you can see that in the TOEFL Excellence course, the speaking section, you're actually recording your responses that get sent to me, and I will grade them and send those back to you. And you'll actually be writing your response into the course and sending it to me, and I will write back to you with my critique. So let's go back to the home page. All right, so back at the home page once again. So then as you're going through the course, there are a lot of lessons and a lot of topics. And the way that this is set up is so I don't want you to skip forward to the listening section if you haven't done the reading section. So when you're first going through the course, you will have to go through every topic and click the next button. And of course, if you don't get the percentage on a certain quiz, you're going to have to do it again until you get the proper percentage. That way I know that you actually comprehend the material. Once you've done it, you can go back and forth. You can click on the sidebar and go to any of the different lessons that you have already done before. If you have not done them, you won't be able to go to them. So if you're still on reading section number 5, you won't be able to go to listening section, and you'll have to actually work your way through the course to get to that point. But once you get to that point, if you want to go back and practice something that you've already done a little bit more, you can do that. So you just have to go through the course at least once before you can go jumping around. And then, of course, anytime that you want to go back to the home page, no matter what page you're on, you can scroll down to the bottom of the sidebar and click this link for return to how to answer every question and fulfill every task on the TOEFL iBT exam. And that is a brief overview of what to expect in this course. If you have any questions, please send them to me at theteacher@GiveMeSomeEnglish.com. And you can find that email anywhere you are in the course by going up here to the contact page. And you can see for all inquiries, please email theteacher@GiveMeSomeEnglish.com. If you're already in the course, then you have already received an email from me. And so therefore you should have my email. And of course, you can write comments on the different pages within the course, and I can answer those as well. But that's basically it for this overview on how to answer every question and fulfill every task on the TOEFL iBT exam. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to see you in class. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'd be happy to answer them. Have an excellent day.